House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith is with us this morning. We'll go right there. I want you to weigh in. There's obviously a massive debate about whether you put everything in one and hope for the best, whether you break it up, and if you do two, do you get everything? What's your view strategically on this?
Well, Andrew, the president was very clear when he spoke with us that we must deliver on the economic policies that he campaigned on to the American people, and also the border policies and the energy policies that he campaigned to the American people. And they ultimately supported his agenda. That's why they sent a Republican House, Republican Senate, and of course, Donald Trump to the White House. So he came to us, the urgency to get this done. And one big, beautiful bill, Andrew, is the quickest and best approach to get as many of the president's economic policies, border policies, and energy policies to his desk in a timely fashion.
What is your sense, though, of just the fault lines, to the extent there are any, within the party as it relates to folks who may be maybe more conservative economically or fiscally than others, who may say, you know what, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna say no?
You know, without a doubt, we definitely have to thread a needle, and it's not going to be easy. Whether, it's 1 or 15 different bills, it's not going to be easy to push it across the finish line. We have the smallest majority in the history of Congress after Elise Stefanik leaves. It will be 217 to 215. If you lose one Republican in Republican priorities, you can't pass the bill. So unity is extremely important. Delivering on the president's promises to the American people is extremely important. Making permanency of Trump's tax cuts, addressing no tax on tips and the other tax provisions that the president campaigned on. We cannot lose one person. When you look at the tax cuts from 2017, Andrew, we lost 13 Republicans. We can't lose one.
Well,
so unity is extremely important.
That raises the question, Chairman Smith, just about what these bills need to look like in terms of dealing with the debt and dealing with the deficit. What kind of math is going to be applied to some of this? There's been some arguments already made that the math is going to be different math even. I mean, that's a polite way of saying that the math is not really the math.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to give. We have to look at the realistic budgetary numbers that affect the fiscal health of the United States. We have to look at real border and immigration policies, and we have to look at the real energy policies. All these things are extremely important to all Republicans in the House and the Senate. We just have to thread that needle. People have differences, whether it's various provisions of the tax code. We could talk about SAL. We could talk about the debt and deficits from the members that are really focused on those provisions, but we have to thread the needle, and we all have to give and take. Various members can't have all of what they want. No one's going to have all of what they want. You have to give and take to deliver for the American people.
Can you weigh in, by the way, separately on this email that went out to 2 million federal workers? A lot of confusion, lots of questions. I imagine people even that in the government who've been employees of the government for a long time, getting an email basically saying either come back to work or resign. If you can effectively just press reply and press resign in the subject line. How do you feel about that? And what about just all of the questions that it relates to? We had a congressman on earlier who suggested it's unclear whether there's even a budget to pay all these people out in a buyout.
I think it's a very lenient email that the administration is sending out. If only 6% of the 2 million federal employees are showing up to work, that's unacceptable. And that is what is being provided, is that only 6% of 2 million workers. If they don't want to show up to work, they don't need to be working for the American people. The American people deserve federal employees to commit and to sacrifice and to do their best job for the American taxpayer.
Separately, wanted to get your thoughts. We have Reid Hoffman coming on in just a little bit. He's on the board of Microsoft. There's a lot of questions about TikTok. And I was looking at the way you voted on TikTok back in the day. What do you think of this sort of moment that we're in, where the law of the land is that this company cannot be operating in the United States? Companies like Google and Apple have decided that they're not going to allow this to operate effectively on their platform. And yet Oracle and companies like Akamai are taking the president at his word that he's going to somehow protect them, despite the law, later down the road. Who's right?
Well, what you have to look at, part of the provisions of the laws allowed that TikTok could exist if it wasn't owned by the Chinese Communist Party. So if it comes under new ownership, that is a real possibility that they would not be banned in the United States. And there's a huge concern about the involvement of the Chinese Communist Party when it comes to TikTok. And so that has to be addressed in order to
disagree about
allow
that. I think
it to appease the law.
The question, Chairman, is what you think should happen in this particular moment, which is the law has been put into place. The Supreme Court has upheld that law. You know, folks like Tom Cotton are out there saying to the technology companies, if you host this, you've got a problem. And by the way, it's not just a problem today. It's maybe the Democrats come into office, by the way, 4 or 5 years from now and look back at these things, right? That's the concern. If you're a company that you're saying the law is the law, but the president is saying, please disregard the law for now as I try to figure this out.
Andrew, I voted for it. The law is the law. 357, I think, House members voted for this. And the law is also clear. TikTok can be available if it's not owned by the Chinese Communist Party. And that's something that the president's been pushing, is that new investors come in and take ownership of TikTok so it can run effectively in the United States.
Congressman, what is the conversation down there about the president's attempt to just freeze spending that has been authorized by Congress across so many different agencies? Obviously, it caused a lot of confusion and chaos yesterday and in the Medicaid portals and elsewhere. I mean, this is something that obviously is in the law. The money's there, and yet it's not getting spent as dictated.
The president has been crystal clear on how he's freezing spending. He's freezing spending according to what the law requires. For example, the Hyde Amendment says that the money cannot be used for abortion. These are things that he outlined, saying that the money should not be sent if it's violating the Hyde Amendment. Similar with DEI and also the Green New Deal priorities. These are things that were not approved by Congress, but it was approved by the prior administration. And the president is listening to the people who sent him to Washington, saying that money should not go to the Green New Deal, DEI, and to fund abortion.
Chairman Smith, I want to thank you for joining us. We hope to talk to you again very, very soon. Thanks.